Have you ever imagined a boy so shy that he could not even look people in the eye, growing up to shake an entire empire without throwing a single punch? Not with an army. Not with a weapon. Just with silence, patience, and an unbreakable will. This is not a story about a soldier. This is a story about fear slowly turning into courage, one small, trembling step at a time. Hello my friends, welcome to PastEcho. Find a comfortable place to sit. Let your shoulders relax. Take one slow, deep breath in, and let it out. Good. Now let this story carry you gently through history today. Picture a dusty road in India, sometime in the 1930s. Along that road, an old, thin man walks slowly, wearing nothing but a simple white cloth wrapped around his waist, a wooden stick in his hand, and round glasses on his tired face. He owns almost nothing. And yet, behind him, thousands of people are walking too, following him with hope in their eyes. This barefoot old man would soon bring one of the most powerful empires in human history to its knees. Who was he? And how did someone so small, so quiet, become so unstoppable? His name was Mahatma Gandhi. He was born on October 2nd, 1869, in a small coastal town called Porbandar, India, at a time when the British Empire ruled over his homeland with total and unshakable control. As a small child, Gandhi was almost nothing like the fearless leader the world would one day remember. He was terrified of the dark. He was afraid of ghosts, afraid of snakes, afraid of thieves who might be hiding in the shadows. He would sleep with a lamp burning beside his bed just to feel safe. In school, he avoided speaking whenever possible, preferring silence over the risk of being laughed at. Following the customs of his time and culture, he was married at the young age of 13, to a girl named Kasturba, and the two of them slowly grew up together, side by side, learning what it meant to build a life as children themselves. As a young man, hungry to build a future for his family, Gandhi traveled across the ocean to London, hoping to study law and become, in his own words, an English gentleman. Imagine that, a shy boy from a small Indian town, suddenly alone in a massive foreign city, surrounded by unfamiliar food, unfamiliar clothing, and an unfamiliar language spoken all around him. He tried desperately to fit in. He bought fine English suits. He took dancing lessons. He practiced his English pronunciation for hours, alone in his room. But no matter how hard he tried, he still felt like an outsider looking in. When he finally became a lawyer and returned home to India, hoping to start his career with pride, disaster struck almost immediately. Standing in a courtroom for his very first case, Gandhi rose to speak, and froze completely. His throat tightened. His mind went blank. He could not say a single word. He sat back down in humiliation, and walked out of that courtroom feeling like a complete failure, wondering if he was even capable of the profession he had trained so hard for. Shy means feeling nervous or afraid to talk to other people. And Gandhi was shy in almost every part of his early life, in the dark of his childhood bedroom, in the streets of London, in that silent courtroom. But here is something important to understand, my friends, shy does not mean weak. Sometimes, the quietest people are carrying the deepest storms inside them, storms that simply have not found the right moment to break free. Soon after this failure, an unexpected opportunity arrived. A legal case needed him in South Africa, and Gandhi, desperate to prove himself, accepted. He boarded a ship, leaving his homeland behind, with no idea that this journey would completely reshape not only his own life, but the fate of millions of people he had never even met. Just 1 week after arriving in South Africa, Gandhi's entire world changed forever. He was traveling by train, holding a valid first-class ticket, dressed neatly, sitting quietly in his seat. At a station called Pietermaritzburg, a white passenger objected to his presence in the carriage. An official was called. Voices rose. And within minutes, Gandhi was dragged from his seat, his luggage thrown out after him, and the train pulled away without him, leaving him alone on a dark, freezing platform in the middle of the night. He did not shout. He did not fight back. He simply sat down on a wooden bench in the darkness, and began to think. For the first time in his life, he truly understood the word injustice, which means a situation that is deeply and unfairly wrong. Sitting alone in the cold, he realized he had a choice. He could spend his life quietly accepting unfair treatment, the way he always had. Or he could stand against it, not with anger, not with violence, but with something far more powerful. Over the years that followed, living and working in South Africa, Gandhi developed and gave a name to an entirely new philosophy of resistance. He called it satyagraha, a word built from two ideas, truth and firmness. Satyagraha means holding firmly to truth, refusing to obey unjust laws, without ever using violence to do it. It was not weakness. It was strength wearing a quieter face. Gandhi organized peaceful protests. He was arrested multiple times. He was beaten in the streets. Newspapers mocked his methods as foolish. But every single time he fell, he stood back up a little stronger, and a little less afraid than before. After 21 years abroad, Gandhi finally returned to India in 1915. But the man who stepped off that ship was almost unrecognizable from the frightened young lawyer who had left decades earlier. He had traded his English suits for simple homespun cotton clothing. He had traded silence for quiet, unshakable conviction. Many of India's political leaders looked at this thin, humble man and doubted him completely. How could peaceful resistance possibly defeat the most powerful empire the world had ever known? To understand why, Gandhi first needed to understand India itself. British rule had stripped Indians of basic rights, controlling their laws, their taxes, their trade, even their food supply, forcing farmers to grow crops for British profit instead of food for their own families. Gandhi knew that real change could not begin in political meetings among elite leaders. It had to begin in the villages, among the poorest people, the ones the empire had almost completely ignored. So that is exactly where Gandhi went. He traveled to Champaran, where farmers were being forced to grow indigo instead of the food their families desperately needed. Verify this fact before publishing. He sat with them. He listened to their suffering. And he organized peaceful resistance until the unfair system was finally overturned. Word of this quiet victory spread like wildfire across the country. Farmers, students, mothers, shopkeepers, millions of ordinary Indians began to see, for the first time, a leader who looked like them, who lived like them, and who believed their voices mattered. Then, in March of 1930, Gandhi announced his most ambitious act of peaceful defiance yet, a march to the sea, nearly 400 kilometers long, to protest Britain's unfair tax on salt, a basic necessity every Indian family needed but were forbidden from producing themselves. At first, only a small group walked beside him. But day after day, as they walked mile after mile under the burning sun, more and more people joined the line. Farmers left their fields. Students left their classrooms. By the 24th day, when Gandhi finally reached the coastal village of Dandi, thousands walked behind him, and newspapers around the entire world were watching. On the morning of April 6, 1930, Gandhi walked slowly to the shoreline, bent down, and picked up a small lump of natural salt from the sand. Such a small, quiet act. And yet, it shook the foundations of an empire. Nonviolent means achieving something without using force or fighting. This was the genius of Gandhi's method. The British Empire had armies built to fight soldiers, weapons built to defeat weapons. But they had no answer for an opponent who refused to fight back, yet refused to obey. Every time they arrested him, every time they beat his followers, the world watched, and the empire's moral authority crumbled a little more. By 1942, with the world at war and India still under colonial rule, Gandhi launched his final great campaign, the Quit India movement, demanding immediate British withdrawal. The British response was swift and harsh. Gandhi, along with thousands of others, was arrested and imprisoned. It was during this imprisonment that Gandhi suffered one of the most painful losses of his life. His wife, Kasturba, who had stood beside him since they were both children, who had shared in his struggles for over 60 years, fell seriously ill while imprisoned alongside him. In February 1944, Kasturba died in captivity, in Gandhi's arms. The man who had led millions toward freedom could not save the one person who had walked every step of his own journey with him. It was a private grief carried inside a very public struggle. Despite this devastating loss, Gandhi continued. And finally, after decades of relentless sacrifice, patience, and peaceful resistance, India achieved its independence on August 15, 1947. It remains, to this day, one of history's greatest examples of a peaceful revolution changing the fate of an entire nation. But freedom, when it finally arrived, came wrapped in devastating heartbreak. India was divided into two nations, India and Pakistan, in an event known as partition. Millions of families were forced to leave their homes overnight. Terrible violence broke out between communities who had once been neighbors. Gandhi, now an old man grieving the loss of his wife, spent his final months not celebrating victory, but walking from village to village, fasting for days at a time, pleading for peace instead of revenge, trying to hold together the very nation he had spent his life fighting to free. On January 30, 1948, while walking to a prayer meeting in Delhi, Gandhi was shot and killed by a man named Nathuram Godse. He died before he could witness the full peace he had spent his entire life working toward, a quiet, bittersweet ending to one of the most extraordinary lives in human history. And yet, the legacy of this small, barefoot man from Porbandar did not end there. His philosophy of nonviolent resistance later inspired other great leaders in their own fights for justice around the world, including Martin Luther King Jr. and Nelson Mandela. Verify this fact before publishing. A shy boy who once could not speak in a courtroom became proof, for the entire world, that peace could be more powerful than any weapon ever built. Just like Gandhi, you may sometimes feel shy when speaking English. You may freeze, just like he did in that courtroom so many years ago, your mind blank, your voice caught in your throat. But remember this, my friend, every small step counts. Every single word you practice, every sentence you dare to speak out loud, is your own quiet march towards something powerful. Gandhi did not become fearless overnight. His courage was built one small, shaking step at a time, just like yours is being built right now. And one day, without even noticing exactly when it happened, you will look back at how far you have walked, and you will hardly recognize the shy person you used to be. Keep listening, keep learning, keep going. This is PastEcho.